Today on the Topic Show, New York goes viral for giving illegal migrants free bail after gun and drug charges, while Subway defender Daniel Petty got about a $100,000 bail. Planet Fitness boycott heats up as a member takes pictures of his junk in the changing room. Ron DeSantis leans into a Babylon Bee meme and goes viral subsequently. Vivek on the U.S. government and the taxpayers giving Ukraine about another $100 billion of aid. Spotify to raise prices yet again, but that actually helps their stock. Amazon to move away from just the walk-in technology at grocery stores, and Disney rebuffs an activist investor Nelson Peltz. All of that and much more on The Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Spotify increasing their prices yet again, which might not be the worst thing for the company because it helped their stock bump up pretty good. Now, Spotify, for those who don't know, is awesome, partially because this show is on the Spotify, or some people call it the Spotify, but it's one of the most successful streaming platforms, bar none. Really, their race to fame, realistically to me, came from them signing an exclusivity contract with Joe Rogan a couple years ago, which is the number one podcaster on the planet. That's really when I think Spotify kind of just grew into the stratosphere, especially just with word of mouth and everyone wanting to tune into Joe Rogan had to go on Spotify to actually hear him. Now, they no longer have an exclusivity contract with Joe, though they still handle his media distribution. It's now back on YouTube. But you also have good thing working out for Spotify. Google Podcasts is gone. So that's where a lot of people used to tune in for podcasts. That subsequently, Google killed that product and they want you to now tune into Google Music. So again, a lot of people are just going to Spotify because, again, wise old man once said, there's an old saying about the devil you know, so to say. And people know Spotify already. So there's a lot of things working for them. Now, this was first reported thanks to Chen over at LinkedIn News. They know that the streaming giants' prices are going up $1 to $2 in the UK, Austria, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Ghana this month, according to Bloomberg and Wall Street Journal, both citing anonymous sources. The US will see a price bump later this year. Currently, subscribers can listen to 15 hours of audiobooks at no additional cost, and the price hike could be used to cover Spotify's publisher payments. They also know that the Swedish company also plans to introduce a basic subscription tier that excludes all audiobooks for $11 per month. Which, again, the biggest misconception about these type of streaming platforms is they're highly profitable and they get all the money. They make the least amount of money at the end of the day in terms of when you give them $1. Most of it goes to the company that owns the intellectual property, aka the music and actually the podcast, and the big companies that own some of the largest music portfolios out there are, things like Warner Brothers Studios, as well as Sony. I mean, Sony just spent, $740 million for, I believe, it's half of Michael Jackson's catalog. So most of that money is not going to Spotify. Now, don't get me wrong, they're still, moderately profitable, but they're struggling to grow. And interestingly enough, some people thought, well, maybe the increase in this price will drive consumers away. Maybe we should sell the stock. Nope, it went up by about 8%. And truth be told, in terms of the week average, it went up by 16% last week, which is phenomenally good. Now, granted, hindsight's always 20/20 when it comes to investing. In the past year to date, it's up 60%. In the past 1 year, it's up 123%. 5-year trend is up 100%. And then the max, of course, it's still pretty good, up 104.16%. So it'll be interesting to see how many people will actually pay for the premium subscription. I mean, anecdotally speaking, I know very few people actually pay for Spotify Premium. Truth be told, I just use the free version because it's good enough. And usually when I'm listening to podcasts, it's just windshield time when, I'm driving with, using my little Honda Civic with 3 pedals like every car should be by default and just kind of rolling through the gears and getting to customer meetings. So I don't mind if there's a little extra commercial in there. But let me know, have you ever paid for Spotify Premium, and would you? And do you know anyone who ever has? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news, you have Amazon Grocery to pivot away from their magical just walk-in technology, which, again, for a while, that was one of the biggest headlines in retail media. was Amazon having the thing where, kind of creepy, they just have the magical technologies, or seemingly magical technologies, where you walk into one of their establishments and they use facial recognition and other technologies to know that you are, in fact, the person who's shopping there. You take the items, put in your little cart, and you just walk out. No traditional checkout, no clerks. It was an extremely convenient shopping experience for many people. Now they're putting an axe to that practice. Now, this comes to us thanks to NPR, and this is Alyssa Selznick saying, quote, "No more just walk out at Amazon grocery stores. The new bet is smart shopping carts." And again, that was the previous technologies using, cameras to check, there's many tracking technologies, well, even more creepy than usual, when inside the store to make sure they're tracking what items you're actually taking. And turns out it's not working so great. Now, it looks like it's taking this tech out of most of the Amazon Fresh stores in the US, although they're going to keep it for a while in the UK. And they note that the Just Walk-In revolution did not come to Amazon's Whole Foods, which, again, Amazon bought them out a couple years ago. That would have been a much bigger rollout. It's funny, they say, who is this? The CEO of Commerce IQ and former Amazon manager say, quote, "This is a failure. However, let's not forget that Amazon's success is built on failures." Well, true. Now, it looks like they're going to use Smart Shopping Cart to give Amazon a scaled-back tech solution, which, I can't but think, how much money did they lose because of theft or it wasn't tracking properly? And the groceries were quite literally walking off the shelves. There's rumors that maybe they'll spin off this business completely. But I guess I'm not too surprised to hear this. Although, when's the last time you actually shopped at Amazon Fresh? Truth be told, I don't think there's any locations around me locally. And granted, my shopping habits, I probably wouldn't go there anywhere since I'm not usually one to pay more for convenience. But that's just me. Let me know, have you ever actually shopped there? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the Culture Pod podcast, you have New York City being roasted since you have the juxtaposition of the subway, many people calling him the subway hero, Daniel Petty, getting slapped with a $100,000 bail recently, and even more recently, you had 6 illegal immigrants and squatters who actually had gun and drug charges, and they were just let out of jail immediately. That doesn't quite seem fair, does it? Now, this comes to us thanks to Lives of TikTok, and she says, quote, "Come into our country illegally and squat in a home with guns and drugs, released without bail. Protect subway riders from a crazed lunatic who threatened to hurt people, $100,000 bail. Welcome to New York City," unquote. Which, Daniel Petty was a former Marine, and there's a crazy person on the subway quite literally shouting in people's faces that he was going to do them harm. He subdued this individual with I believe it was a chokehold, and this individual passed away. That individual who had been arrested dozens of times, even attacked old grandmas on subway. So that subway deplorable person actually beat up grandma. And it wasn't once, it was multiple times. And police just let this individual out of jail. Can't help but think, it's sad to say, but you get what you vote for. Because again, they're prosecuting the crime that they want. They're prosecuting the good guys in this case. Then the bad guys roam free. And also, in terms of New York with businesses, they're driving businesses away in droves because they prosecuted Trump for his real estate. A lot of companies are saying they'll no longer do business in New York. Can't but wonder who the hell is moving to New York to try to start a living, or just, would you ever move your family to New York City? I can't think of a single compelling reason to do so. Now, this, as youth might say, went viral on social media, getting 500,000 views within the first 24 hours and 23,000 likes. Now, going to the top comments, you have Elon Musk saying, quote, "Broken injustice in New York," getting 2.6 thousand likes. You have Paul Zazupa chiming in saying, quote, "New York City is a perfect example of how not to run a big city. You think these kinds of problems happen in Moscow? No way. Putin is an evil man, but he has no tolerance for crime. That way, law-abiding citizens don't even need to take matters into their own hands." I'm cooking 64 likes. Liberal Media Team M said, quote, "No one, and I mean no one, has done more harm America than Democrats." I'm cooking 47 likes. Scrolling down more and more. Yeah, very similar to Chicago. I don't think there's been a Republican leader. Well, where's Giuliani? It's been quite some time since they had a lot of Republican leadership in New York. Scrolling down here. Merrick Garland press secretary parody account says, quote, "It's time to put up this sign." It's a sign with bullet holes, and it says, "Caution, Democrat run city, enter at your own risk." I'm cooking 30 likes. Let's see here. Scrolling down, you have Red Wave Press saying, quote, "A hero is prosecuted in New York City while illegal immigrant squatters are released without bail. America's justice system is broken. Follow if you agree," unquote, getting 79 likes. Granted, I was also one of the likes as well. Mark says, quote, "Remember these headlines when you vote in November? Criminal illegals have more rights than American citizens. And if common sense candidates lose, then put the for sale sign up. Take what you can, get out of New York City. It's only going to get worse." I'm cooking 63 likes. Which, on a somewhat ADHD note, I forget, what's the tax rate for New York City if you're to live there? How much do they steal? I mean tax. Income tax, New York City. Let's see here. 10.9% if you actually are successful in terms of monetarily or the higher income level. Jeez Louise. So think about that. The federal government steals, taxes 40% of your paycheck. Then New York City takes 10.9% of your paycheck. They have to pay a sales tax, a property tax, a car registration tax, a gasoline tax, an alcohol tax, a tobacco tax, internet tax, phone tax, water tax, electric tax. If Americans were proficient at math, unfortunately public schools are all-time low in terms of acumen and test scores, I can't but think they'd vote third party or vote for someone else in a New York minute, pun moderately intended, when they realize how much of that dollar they earn really is theirs at the end of the day. You also have Planet of Memes saying, quote, "Yet people will still vote for Democrat like obedient sheep." Why? I'm cooking 97 likes. Well, one of the biggest reasons is incumbents usually win regardless of the situation. Whether you're selling someone a car, technology, or politics, there's a huge advantage at being the incumbent solution, whether you're trying to replace a software solution or take them from driving a Honda to upsell them maybe to an Acura or just a newer Honda. The incumbent has an overwhelming advantage in those situations. So that's one of the main reasons. And another reason is I think it's data. People don't realize how bad it is if they don't live, in the downtown cities of the area. And politicians just blame the other political party. Look at Chicago. They just say, we promise we'll fix it this time. Just like the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears will be great next year. Absolutely, they will be. Statistically speaking, absolutely not. The Bears are as successful as the city of Chicago. Not very much. But you get what you vote for. Scrolling down, you have MRC TV saying, quote, "The inmates are running the asylum," getting 25 likes. Scrolling down more and more. Trying to see if there's any contrarian statements like saying, "Oh no, they totally deserve to be let out scot-free without bail." Let's see here. Really no contrarian statements. And again, politically speaking, there are people who want $0 bail. They want, them to just get out scot-free. And they don't want you to have the ability to defend yourself. Try owning a gun in New York City. It's prohibitively ridiculous. For years, the concealed carry permits were only given to the elites, like Ms. Feinstein famously. Or was it Feinstein? I know she was in California. Who was the one in New York? There's so many hypocrites in politics, it's hard to keep track, to be frank. But we'll see if this becomes more of a political issue. Culturally speaking, it's fascinating. Decades ago, people used to dream about going to New York or Los Angeles. It was the American dream, they were said. Lately, those places have become, especially San Francisco, more of a nightmare. You look at the B-reel of all these places, it's almost like a third world country in some cases. People just homeless and high all day on the streets. And yet, in terms of resource allocation, we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars overseas in other countries that most Americans couldn't, quite frankly, point to on a map. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a kind of that cultural shift back or the pendulum swings back and more people start to realize, well, if we keep prosecuting people for defending themselves and standing up for others, you're going to get the outcome of people stop defending themselves. They'll stop defending others, which is disgusting to think that will happen, but it is happening. A lot of people are just hesitant to help others in general. We've had that for years, and it's only getting worse and worse. And culturally speaking, I don't see the pendulum swinging back anytime soon unless you get some people who vote for some different political leaders, start changing some of these laws, actually defending the good guys. Do you have any semblance of hope that that'll happen in our lifetime? That might be a thing? I don't want to say the odds are small or infinitesimal, but let's just say when it comes to politicians and, culture getting better, I don't get my hopes up much these days. Other interesting cultural news, you have the Planet Fitness boycott heating up as pictures of a gentleman taking pictures of his erection in the changing room goes viral on X Twitter. Although, I might just get banned on YouTube because I said he. Truth be told, I'm not sure this individual's pronouns, and that is a cancelable offense in most social instances these days. Now, this was brought to our attention thanks to Libs of TikTok, and it says, quote, shocking, disgusting, pervert takes photos of his exposed private part and even pleasures himself in front of customers at Planet Fitness. This is the environment that Planet Fitness fosters. What's stopping these perverts from just walking into women's bathrooms at Planet Fitness? Is anyone safe at Planet Fitness? And this picture, again, shows you how mentally vacuous or perverse some of these people are. This person willingly took a picture of his own junk, posted on X Twitter, and he said, come catch me at Planet Fitness in Taylorsville, Utah. And another picture of him erect, and he's doing this in front of people in the changing room. And he says, add it again in Planet Fitness, eggplant emoji. And this went viral to say the least. It got 1.7 million views and 25,000 likes. And again, how disgusting is that? And how is that even possible that this is being accepted in modern society? I understand if you work out, you might be proud of your body, maybe you want to send a picture to your significant other. I understand maybe a topless picture if you're a guy in the changing room. Okay. But your junk and you're pleasuring yourself. I mean, how is this not... I'm astonished that this person's not arrested, though giving most police departments and policies these days, and culturally speaking, I'm surprised this person doesn't get a trophy for what they're doing. And I mean, I can't think of a conceivable reason to go to Planet Fitness these days. I'm extremely fortunate that I've gotten to the point where I don't own a house, but I rent a house and I'm able to have a little fitness equipment so I can work out at home. But yeah, I can't think of... I mean, if all the gyms out there, I would never go to Planet Fitness these days. It's just astonishing that people are still paying to go there. Now, some of the top comments come in from one being Paul Zazupa, saying, quote, it continues to get worse for Planet Fitness, doesn't it? This is disgusting. It's bad enough that men have to see naked men in men's rooms, but to see them gratifying themselves, and Planet Fitness wants to subject women to this, unquote. Oh, it goes on more. This isn't illegal yet, but this isn't legal yet, it's being allowed, unquote. That got 27,000 views and 1.7 thousand likes. Scrolling down, you have Gunther Eagleman saying, quote, they need to be bankrupted and put out of business, unquote, getting 1.3 thousand likes. General TM says, quote, Planet Fitness needs to completely shut down or go under new management. The current owners have turned a fitness center into a porn shop, unquote, getting 1,000 likes. Now, that being said, I mean, the founder, he proclaimed that as soon as they got the private equity company to take over the company and he sold out his shares of the business, he let them know that one of the newer leaders at Planet Fitness was a former child abuser, and the response was they actually got rid of the founder, and they allowed that person to stay. That's kind of gives you a hint of what the company stands for. You also have Tess Brown saying, or PhD saying, quote, Planet Fitness is not safe for women. Their management has clearly thrown their support behind perverted men at women's expenses, and you really have to question the judgment of its executive team for going along with the charade. Who wants to go to a gym like that and go getting 1.5 thousand likes? Libercrat Media TM says, quote, chain gyms are not safe for women. They don't care about you. Stop giving them your hard-earned money and instead support a local shop. Work out at home or with a friend, unquote. And they also took a little screenshot of a picture from LA Fitness. And LA Fitness really believes in this because they use a colored placard. Like, this isn't just something they printed out a piece of paper. They had a nice, looks like maybe it's a plastic placard. It says LA Fitness in multiple colors, so that costs a little bit more. It says LA Fitness, transgender individuals may use the locker room associated with the gender with which they identify. And that got 596 likes. Let's see here. Dr. Clown PhD says, quote, I was right with my ad, and is a picture of a biological man with long blue hair chasing a woman, and he says, let me show you my private part. And Planet Fitness on the bottom in text says, quote, you will run even in the locker room. I'm cooking 910 likes. Red Wave Press says, quote, don't go to Planet Fitness. Boycott this woke gym. This is disgusting. I'm cooking 852 likes. Scrolling down more and more. The Rogue Politico says, quote, Planet Fitness has turned into a lifestyle club where dirty perverts go to play out their sexual fantasies. I'm cooking 346 likes. George Alexander Palos says, quote, having a phone in a gym should result in loss of membership. Having a phone in a locker room should result in prison. I'm clicking 728 likes. Branos says, quote, Planet Fitness wants to protect fetishes more than they want to protect decency. I'm clicking 102 likes. Let's see here. We do have a contrarian. So Art Candy, her name is spelled C-A-N-D-E. So it's not even spelled properly, so it's a silly name. Also silly is someone being called Topping. Oh, wait. I partially digress. Miss Art Candy says, quote, $10, says he's a MAGA. I'm quoting 110 likes, which, as this has devolved into also a cultural and political issue, it is being seen kind of as a left versus right type of topic, with people traditionally on the right saying you shouldn't have biological men in women's locker rooms, and people on the left saying there's no difference. There should be no differences at all. You can go wherever you want. Not everyone on those sides of the political aisle believe in those, but that's kind of the general consensus that we're seeing lately. Scrolling down, you also have, let's see here. Peter says, quote, 1, this is nothing new, and he's in the men's locker room. 2 men can handle this if it's an issue. I'm quoting 71 likes, which, I mean, perhaps he's indicating they can handle it by, well, I actually don't think you want to get in a physical altercation. That would perhaps get really awkward really quick, but no, especially because there's other men. There's guys in the background of these pictures. So this person's taking a picture of his junk with other guys in the background. I understand a changing room, you're going to change, but you're not supposed to get excited about it. Well, not physically, you know what I mean. And they're just getting excited about it and taking pictures of it with people in the background in a changing room. So I guess Peter thinks this is okay. So Peter says it's okay for you to get your Peter excited in front of other Peters. So I'm scrolling down and do 1 or 2 more comments here. Let's see. Vinny said, quote, let them do what they want in their own bedrooms, they said. I'm getting 21 likes, which many people are comparing the slippery slope theory, or some people just call it a thing because it's been proven so many times, when you've seen these cultural issues kind of cascade more and more and more. When, I mean, you wind back the clock a couple years ago, you never have fully grown naked adults in parades in downtowns, and now it's very commonplace for pride parades in the United States. If you're an international viewer or listener, I'd be fascinated to hear if you've seen same cultural changes where that's become more commonplace, where they even have people dancing naked in front of children in the streets, which, again, if it's illegal to do in a public park, it should probably be illegal like in the streets too, right? But I partially digress. Let's see here. Andrew Tate, fake parody account, says, quote, Planet Pervert is a better name. I'm quoting 97 likes. Now, interestingly enough, it seemingly has really not hurt their stock too much. So if we go to their stock, it's pretty much recovered darn near everything that they lost. Granted, when this was first brought to the forefront, when you had the nice, I call her grandma, I forget her name though, there was a gal or an elderly lady who went to the Planet Fitness and she saw a biological man changing in front of a little girl, shaving in front of a little girl in the locker room where you also change. She took a picture documenting that and took it to management and said, hey, there's a guy in the girls' restroom, changing room, probably should kick him out. And the result was Planet Fitness actually fired grandma. She's no longer a member. So that attributed to the company losing about $400 million in market value because so many people sold their stock. That being said, by the time the week was done, it was almost fully recovered. And truth be told, last week their stock was actually up by about 3 to 4%. And you look at the month trend, it's up 2.57%. 6-month outlook for Planet Fitness' stock has increased by 34.35%. Now again, they're very lucky in terms of the timing of this because again, when it comes to fitness industry, a majority of your sales come Q1. Overwhelmingly in part because of New Year's resolutions. Very few people are signing up for a new gym membership in July. Maybe May-ish time, because maybe the swimsuit season. So that might help bump the sales a little bit, but for that industry, it's overwhelmingly in January. That's where their sales come from. I suspect if this happened in December, it would have a much more of an effect on their business. There are a couple of people who are canceling their memberships, but overall, if you look at cancel rates when it comes to a lot of these things, the people who actually take the time to cancel are not it's not that prevalent to really have a dent on the company's bottom line. And I can't but think this would probably be a similar case. Again, they're getting more and more negative press. And there are, again, we've seen in a couple of screenshots people are canceling. Now, that being said, are they increasing their customer base? Because these policies do attract some people to the gym. Granted, I don't think that percentage is large enough to actually make up for the lost sales. Very similar to the Bud Light business blunder of the century, where they hired Dylan Mulvaney for $185,000. They lost about $1.4 billion in sales. Now, again, I'm sure they increased their sales a little bit, but with a different demographic. But overall, that's the perfect use case of not understanding your current clientele. They lost billions of dollars. And I can't but suspect you'll have a very similar instance with Planet Fitness. So let me know. And the only thing that might help them out is perhaps a instance where you have smaller towns or some areas in the U.S. where that's the only gym in town. In which, in that case, if you don't have the capacity or the ability to work out at home, or can't do calisthenics, or maybe you live in an area where it's inconvenient to run outside due to climate or just general schedule. I understand there are instances where you might need to go to a gym in order to work out to your best of your ability. In some cases, what if that's the only option in town and you don't have the resource allocation to set up your own site at home or your apartment? That will make it much more prohibitive to quit. So let me know, is there a Planet Fitness in your town? I mean, anecdotally speaking, I've driven past some in the past. I think I went in there once and just kind of laughed because, again, it's not a place where you really go to push yourself to the limit. Their target market used to be people who are trying to introduce themselves into the concept of fitness. That's why they don't let you really sweat too much or work out too hard. They even have the cliche, they have a little bell or something. So if you actually lift a weight too hard and you make a modicum of a sound, an alarm will go off. I think they call it the grunt alarm or something like that. They also feed you pizza, and junk food. Perhaps that's a great way to guarantee your members will never actually quit because they get healthy enough. But yeah, it kind of tells you their clientele. They feed people pizza at Planet Fitness. So I can't help but think, they're going to have a lot more negative press. This is not getting, I don't think it's going to be resolved anytime soon. The company's doubling down on the policy. They are actually telling some of their employees, like, hey, if someone comes in with a camera, don't tell them it's a policy. But then we have, all the leaks of the actual employee manuals saying, like, if you don't respect someone's pronouns, you'll be fired. There is a lot of negative press. And culturally speaking, it's fascinating to see the adoption rate of this ideology. And many businesses are on the side of they think that is the future of the market. And some companies are being pushed by ideological means, not just profit. You have some of the largest financial institutions who buy stocks. They're taking this into account. It's not a coincidence that many of these large publicly traded companies are adopting these types of policies. I don't think, fiscally speaking, it'll be good for them in the short term, especially 12, 36, 24 months. But long term, and let me know in the comments if you think differently, do you think we'll see a cultural shift in the United States where this will actually be not an issue in a couple of years, or it'll be even applauded and the majority of people will agree with these policies? Obviously, I'm a little skeptical to say the least, but let me know. As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part of the podcast, you have Ron DeSantis leaning into the Babylon Bee meme and going viral, to say the least. Now, again, I can't help but wonder, where was Ron DeSantis 6 or 7 months ago when he was having his futile attempt to get the Republican nominee? He started off in the poll aggregator around 33% in terms of who you think should be Republican nominee for president. Should be Trump, DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Vivek. You also had, we had Burgum. You had the big guy, not Biden, the big guy being Chris Christie. And again, that's pretty good. You're starting off at 33% in the poll aggregator. Trump started off around 40-ish%. But over the next year, like a bad stock, DeSantis just went down to basically nothing. Went to like 12.3%, and Trump skyrocketed all the way to the 70th percentile, or 70-ish%. Because again, Ron DeSantis was just so awkward, and he shot himself in the high-heeled boot with like a 50 cal. It was so bad. It almost seemed like he was trying to fail. Because again, we've seen him do great policies. We've seen him be really viral and successful on social media before. But then during the campaign, just all failed. And here's a good example. This went viral. He leaned in the meme. He thought, took it with a little tongue-in-cheek. And I suspect most of the comments will be giving him accolades, just saying, hey, you could take a joke, It is fascinating to see his change, and maybe he's just not listening to his advisors anymore. Maybe he finally fired the people who he was listening to. Now, the Babylon Bee a couple weeks ago, they actually said, quote, DeSantis kicked out a Republican Party for accomplishing way too many things. And they also accompanied it with a picture of Ron DeSantis. And Ron DeSantis actually posted this on his ex-Twitter a few days later, And he simply had the little, I forget what you call it when you use the little symbols on the keyboard to actually make it look like something. And it's a picture of a person awkwardly, it's a picture of a person awkwardly smiling, just saying like, eh. That little got 1.3 million views, which for DeSantis is ridiculously good. Like when he was running for Republican nominee, his average view count on X Twitter maybe between 200, maybe 400,000 views and maybe a couple thousand likes. And it's got 33,000 likes. And all he did was just kind of say, yeah. And again, this is a joke about him. This also puts him in a good light. So it's easier to, kind of lean into the meme, so to say. But yeah, where was this a while ago? Now, scrolling down, I can't believe think most of the top comments are going to say something to similar effect. Oh. So one of the first comments actually comes from, let's see down here. The Detroit Trader saying, quote, start putting some effort into supporting Trump, Ron. You have been doing so little. The American people need to see it. Just do it. Unquote, getting 28 likes. Yeah, Built to Last have a picture of DeSantis hugging Trump, and Trump said, I tweet, and DeSantis says, I saw a problem. And it says, DeSantis with no drama delivers, getting 188 likes, which, again, I don't know how mentally vacuous the people were who were running his campaign for Ron DeSantis. A simple idea, which, again, politics need to boil down to a simple, digestible idea. How did he not have t-shirts, mugs, and other swag and merchandise, and just a simple message of DeSantis does? And have 2 to 3 bullet points of things he's accomplished as governor. Again, how are podcasters having better ideas for his campaign than the quote-unquote experts that work there? Because again, he had a unique situation where he was a successful governor. He dramatically increased his winning rate. The first time he won governor is like nearly around 1%. And when he's reelected, is in the over like 20% plus. That, and granted, a lot of people moved to Florida in part because of the policies that he enacted, that he signed off on. He had a great track record, and yet just kind of went all down the drain. Dustin Grage says, quote, D future has arrived. I don't want to say it's F minus, but D minus for a word pun. So he said D future. So he tried to is trying to make a joke of Future and DeSantis. And he has a picture of DeSantis smiling, not awkward, which, again, there's only like 6 of those pictures in existence, so I'm impressed he found it. Now, that got 411 likes. I also have Frontier, have a picture of Ron DeSantis wearing high-heeled boots. That got 4 likes. I also have Lucky saying, quote, Donald Trump ended your career, and it says 125 Florida delegates won by Donald Trump. And Ron DeSantis got, let's see here, not many at all. So, yeah, Ron DeSantis got 3.7% of the votes. Scrolling down, you also have Ahmed M. Kahal saying, quote, meanwhile, it's a picture of Trump holding up a magazine, a Penthouse magazine, getting 53 likes. Let's see here. Scrolling down, you have Nita saying, quote, still my favorite, the best governor in America, unquote, getting 62 likes. Scrolling down, you have Timper saying, quote, Ron DeSantis, you are the man, you should be our Republican champion, but we are now the MAGA party, and they have given full control to Day GT, and we are in serious shit now. You keep doing your thing in Florida because you're a rock star, unquote, getting 83 likes. Proud Elephant, the profile picture is in fact of an elephant, but they say in the name, the nomenclature, they say Proud Elephant, American flag emoji, eagle emoji. And yet, they didn't add the elephant emoji. So not the best marketing, but the Proud Elephant says, quote, best governor in America, and it's not even close, getting 278 likes. GA Girl 1967 says, quote, it's a sign you should leave the Republican Party and start a new one, and quoting 167 likes, which, I mean, statistically speaking, that's never worked before. I think the closest we've seen in our lifetime is Donald Trump, who historically is more, look at his lifetime, his career. A lot of the issues he's more on the left. I mean, a lot of people in the Libertarian Party, a lot of people who are independents are attracted to Trump because he's such a contrarian to most politicians, and he has, I think, some moderate policies as well. But yeah, I don't think Ron would be successful. I don't think he has the resource allocation or persona to actually successfully launch a third party. Again, the more options, the better. That way we actually have more than just cliche Republicans versus Democrats, where at the end of the day, how much have things really changed or gotten better? But yeah, it'd be great if we can get more options. Absolutely. Miguel Florina says, quote, you paid your influencers are doing great, getting 23 likes. Scrolling down. Let's see here. Pragnometer says, quote, a story less than 20 minutes prior to DeSantis getting something done. Pretty serendipitous. And is a picture of DeSantis signing a law to crack down on squatters and empower police. They got 11 likes. Let's see here. Matt simply says, nice you win the internet today, sir, getting 32 likes. Scrolling down. Ben Shapiro's beard said, quote, this might be the best response to a Babylon Bee article yet. Getting 38 likes. Hank Burgerton says, quote, even though it's only a joke, if you started a new party, I join immediately, unquote, getting 34 likes. So again, a couple contrarian statements, kind of roasting him or critiquing him, but overall, I'd say a little bit better ratio than usual in terms of the people that are supporting him. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see because he's termed out. He can't be a governor again after he finishes up this. So it'll be interesting to see where does he go from here? Is he successful in that regard? And what might it take? What might the future be? I mean, there are a lot of people who really like him. He has a good track record. He's done some good things. But maybe a cabinet position for Trump? I don't know. There's all the rumors maybe VP, and Trump could claim New York residency because technically you're not supposed to have them from the same state. Maybe there's a lot of uncertainty, but I think one thing can be sure. I don't think he's going to start like a small business anytime soon. I think he's probably going to be a different politician in a different capacity. I mean, let me know. Where do you think he'd be most successful and have the greatest impact? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Vivek on Ukraine to get another $100 billion. Jeez Louise, that is a pretty penny to say the least. Oh, I should probably clarify a vintage pretty penny since modern pennies are 99.99% zinc and just copper plated, which is basically useless, which is an apt metaphor for the U.S. monetary system and, the 40-year inflation that our government has so mentally vacuously caused. And the left and the right contributed to it. Now, Vivek says, quote, Congress owes our nation a straight answer to a simple question. What will the next $100 billion to Ukraine accomplish that the first $100 billion didn't? I'll wait. And his voice is, of course, better than mine, so without further ado.
If you're a CEO and you're looking to invest behind a project that you like, but it doesn't work out, things have gone sideways. Say you've allocated $100 million to a given project, a Fortune 500 company, and it's totally failed. Maybe it's designing a new car. Maybe it's designing a new technology. Maybe it's building a new refrigerator. Whatever it is, you've allocated money to that project and it has failed abysmally. And the people who are running that project come to you and say, you need to put another $100 million further in. Here's the first question you ought to ask. What will the next $100 million accomplish that the first $100 million didn't? If you don't have a good answer to that question, you have no business throwing good money after bad. Well, it'd be a good thing if our government officials behaved the same way. That's what's the issue now in this debate. Should be a debate at least, although we're not having it, about whether we should indeed send more money to Ukraine. Except this time we're not talking about the $100 million number. That's a lot of money. We're talking about the $100 billion number. And here's the question that every Republican, and of course every Democrat also, ought to answer. What will the next $100 billion do for us, the United States of America, in Ukraine, that the first $100 billion didn't already accomplish? There isn't a good answer to that question. And that's a basic prerequisite for even having a debate on the possibility of sending more money to Ukraine. Here's what's actually happening. We're increasing the risk of major conflict in a way that doesn't advance U.S. interests, instead of going in the direction that we should be, which is a reasonable agreement that brings this war to an end, de-escalates the possibility of major global conflict, and allows the United States to be strong ourselves at home. This is not some sort of dovish position. This isn't some sort of isolationist position. To the contrary, I believe strongly, and I stand by it, that the United States needs to rebuild our military. Yes, we need to invest smarter and, dare I say, even invest more in protecting our own homeland. And strengthening our military is an important part of how to do it. We should use our military on our own southern border. We should absolutely strengthen our naval capacity at a time when we're hitting a nadir. A divest to invest program that leaves us in a weak position in the South China Sea, in the Pacific, and elsewhere. We have our problems to address: cybersecurity threats, super EMP threats that could take out our electric grid in a matter of days. These are national security concerns that we are failing to address in the United States. And yet, against that backdrop, we're having a debate, or even worse, not even having a debate, about whether to fork more money over to Ukraine without an iota of an answer to the question of what will the next $100 billion accomplish in Ukraine that the first $100 billion didn't. That's the answer to the question we need. We ought to demand it of Republicans, Democrats, and anybody else who's recommending sending our own taxpayer money, our own military equipment, and taking our own risk as the United States of America of major conflict, driving Russia further into China's hands at a time when the Russia-China alliance is actually the single greatest threat that the military of the United States faces on a global stage. That's what we need to answer. We don't have a good answer to that question, then we have no business entering this business of forking over more aid to Ukraine. I think Speaker Johnson's done a lot of good things since he took over, but I think this is one question he owes an answer on to the American people. That'll at least enrich the quality of debate. I may be on one side of that debate, somebody else in good faith may be on the other side of it, but whatever it is, we have to be able to answer the basic question like a CEO would for his business to his shareholders. The people in Congress need to treat the taxpayers of this country more like their shareholders too. Answer what that next $100 billion is going to do that the first $100 billion didn't. And without that, we have no business writing that check of aid, especially when we're more vulnerable than we've ever been here at home. Taking care of our homeland ought to be our top priority. And in absence of that, I'm going to demand some answers.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what has that money done for Americans. Now, going to the comment section, you have Paul Zupa saying, quote, "We will never know what the first $100 billion was used for because they're not keeping track of how it's spent. And it shouldn't be spent in Ukraine at all. Our border continues to be a disaster. The idea of spending more money on the war is ridiculous. Shame on Speaker Johnson." I'm quoting 207 likes, which, yeah, the U.S. has had over, I believe, 10 million illegal immigrants get into the United States the past 36 months. So we're not spending, relative to the money we're giving away, pretty much any resource allocation to guarding our borders. Yet we're giving hundreds of billions of dollars to other countries to protect their borders. Fascinating priorities that D.C. has. You also have David D saying, quote, "Okay, this is going to be a long thread, but about how stupid this is. One, we have not given Ukraine $100 billion, not even close. The vast amount of money spent stayed in the U.S. buying new gear, paying for U.S. deployments. A contrarian statement. I will continue reading. This is interesting. Much of it went to non-Ukrainian things to make jobs in the U.S. F-35s, CH-47s, or replacing old stock out of date." Well, I'm pretty sure have they gotten F-35s? I thought Ukraine got an F-35s. That's our best tech. I didn't think we were giving it away that easily. All right, so Forbes says, quote, "While the F-35s are not directly participating in Ukraine, it's operating in the background." So don't think we're getting F-35s. Or the F-35 Lightning II specifically, coming from Lockheed. This person has 8. That was a long thread. So they're making the argument that we gave a lot of our old armaments, so we're spending the money on ourselves to make new stuff. Which, again, you wouldn't need to replenish the new stuff if you were giving away the old stuff. 27. Yeah, because we gave last year was over $100 billion in arms. Let's see, pull up the infographic on how much total we've given them thus far. Let's see here. Total U.S. Ukraine spend. Let's see here. What's the total? So I thought it was close to $60 billion. Let's see. 2024. Where is it? Because last year alone, I thought it was 150. Let's see here. 113 billion. It's a pretty penny to say the least. But it's interesting to see a contrarian statement here where someone thinks we should be spending even more money on that. If you think, I'd love to hear if you think we should increase our spend. Let's see here. Other posts you have, and that did get 983 likes. You have Johnny P saying, quote, "Vladimir Putin owns the world a straight answer to a simple question. Why should we believe he will stop at the current annexed territories in Ukraine when Crimea wasn't enough? Why should NATO allies and all of Europe not feel threatened?" I'm getting 107 likes. Well, I was going to say Putin had that, what was it, 2 or 3 long interview with Tucker Carlson talking about the history of how Ukraine had been a part of Russia. It's also, you also see NATO expanding in terms of, there's that quote unquote handshake agreement where NATO said they would not expand to the east, and they've done quite the antithesis since the formation of NATO. So, let's see here. Realistically, will they expand even more? I mean, I'm not necessarily a gambling man, but I don't see much of an incentive for them to expand except not to have their NATO right on their back door. You also have Mason Birch saying, quote, it will line the pockets of defense contractors, unquote, getting 120 likes. Now, that being said, we're sending them a mixture. We're sending them cash as well as military armament. I believe also some medical gear as well. Scrolling down more and more. You have Renata Michelle saying, quote, it will accomplish nothing but make the war longer. The longer we fund the war, the longer it will go on, getting 30 likes. Let's see here. Scrolling down here. See more and more. 0, 1 + 1 = 10. That's their profile name. Says, quote, be honest, the money you claim that is going to Ukraine is not money at all. Most of it is outdated, mothballed equipment sitting in storage, ammo, missiles, training, logistics, equipment to Ukraine. That got 55 likes, which we're also saying the new military hardware. That was the first thing that most countries sent was their current stockhold of munitions, which, again, doing so does mean you're spending money on new stuff to replace it. Now you also have Marie saying, quote, we know they are funneling money through Ukraine to pay for all the corruption like fights for illegals in camps where they are coached on what to do to line their pockets, unquote, getting 24 likes, which, yeah, there's no purse strings attached. We are in some cases literally just giving them cash and not keeping track of it. And it's gone missing. Remember, prior to the controversy, even CNN and New York Times, everyone was saying how Ukraine was one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. Scrolling down more and more, Liz Laney says, quote, Congress owes us a lot, including an audit trial of every dollar we sent to Ukraine, getting 20 likes, which, again, there's only 1 or 2 people in D.C. who actually brought that up as a point, saying, should we have some type of amendment or some type of section or something on this bill saying, oh yeah, we're going to keep track of how you actually spend the money we're giving you, which is funding everything from not just munitions and ammo for them, but it's also funding small businesses in Ukraine. It's funding pensions for government employees. And yet we have homeless veterans in the United States. Fascinating, the resource allocation and what the government really values. Do 1 or 2 more here. You see Planet of Memes saying, quote, another house for Zelensky, getting 36 likes. Let's see. So Karen says, quote, America last funding from President of the United States in Ukraine, January 20, 2023 is $500 million. January 23, 2023 is $10 billion. January 24, 2023 is $2 billion. February 3, 2023 is $400 billion. Jeez Louise, that's a lot of billions. Or millions, adding up to billions and a couple billions. That's a lot. It's pretty much every other week. Yeah, what the hell, we'll go through it. April 4th, 2023, $2.6 billion. April 19th, 2023, $325 million. May 8th, 2023, $1.2 billion. May 18th, 2023, $3 billion, sorry. May 19th, $375 million and $40 billion. May 31st, $300 million. June 9th, $2.1 billion. June 13th, $325 million. June 16th, $205 million. June 20th, $622 billion. June 26th, $500 million. July 7th, $800 million. July 18th, $1.3 billion. July 21st, $400 million. August 13th, $13 billion. August 15th, $200 million. As quite a pretty penny. And I'm not sure if that is just cash, straight up cash, or if that's taking into account all the military arms that we're sending them. That got 5 likes, and again, the U.S. is $34 trillion in debt, and we keep just printing money, which is why the stuff we have in our pockets are basically worthless because the government has caused 40-year hyperinflation. So what is the U.S. debt clock at? Let's see here. It's quite sad to always check in on it. $34.6 trillion is the U.S. current debt, and it goes up literally every single second. Yeah, it's not getting better anytime soon. Now, scrolling down, do 1 or 2 more here. Let's see here. See, Barbara says, oh, Zelensky bought a mansion in the UK. If that helps find some of the funds, getting 4 likes. Tony says, quote, I agree with that. We are funding their government officials while they buy mansions outside Ukraine, getting 9 likes. And Zelensky doesn't even suit up. Pathetic. He comes to the United States and goes in front of fellow elected officials in the United States, asks for more billions upon billions of dollars, and wears a sweater. Pathetic. obviously. So it'll be interesting to see, is this going to be a culture or political issue and cultural issue going into the election this year? Are Americans going to say, hey, enough is enough? Or will they vote saying, hey, we want you to send even more? We think it's a good idea to defend Ukraine? Or do you think no one's going to care about this when it comes to election season? Again, the clock always ticks faster than we think. Maybe this won't be a big deal anymore in a couple months. Maybe people just forget about the hundreds of billions of dollars we've given them. Do you think this will be a hot topic for the upcoming election year? Let me know in the comments. As always, it would be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Bob Iger wins the proxy battle against Nelson Peltz. Rest in peace, Disney. Probably. Now, Bob Iger famously built Disney astronomically. He helped company get Marvel. He helped get Lucasfilm, aka the Star Wars franchises, and they did pretty good. They pumped out some billion-dollar successes, and it was pretty good for a couple years. But then they got affected, and they started to go down the road of politics and cultural issues that are very polarizing, offending on average about 50% of the prospective clients as well as their old clients. And Disney seemed to do the impossible. They lost money on movies, which is almost as astonishing as Ferrari losing money, or it's almost as inconceivable as the government doing something financially intellectual. Like it just doesn't happen. And perhaps my metaphor was lost there with a couple of those, but the case in point is Disney used to just print money when it comes to these movies, and then in 2023 they lost about $2 billion on these films. Everyone used to love them. It used to be something you could bring the whole family to. Now, I would not recommend it because, again, they've injected controversy and culture and political issues into these films and these cartoons, and they're having sexual themes and child materials, things that would, even 10 years ago, they'd get them canceled. Everyone would have said this is not child appropriate. Now, there are some people who do think it's child appropriate. Now, that being said, I don't think that is the majority of the market, and I think they are going to be losing more than they are gaining when it comes to offending people, prospective clients. Now, Nelson Peltz has a long track record of getting onto company boards and steering them out of politics and getting them to focus on their core competencies. In Disney's case would be make material that is uncontroversial that will appeal to a vast majority of the audience, which they had successfully done for decades. So Nelson was fighting and he was raising funds, raising capital. He wanted to get a couple seats on the board of directors to have more of a direct influence on the company. Now, thanks to Nelson Peltz, the company has started to cut some of the fat from the business. Nelson Peltz helped persuade Bob Iger, the CEO, to trim about $7 billion in costs over the next couple of years, which they have been doing successfully because, again, they are very much top heavy and they have a lot of layers they can get rid of. Now, again, it looks like thanks to a lot of commercials, campaigning, they've gotten most of the people who are the shareholders to vote in favor of Bob Iger and not for Mr. Peltz. Now, this is come to us thanks to Emma Thorne over at LinkedIn News, and they say, quote, Disney has won its high-profile proxy battle with activist investor Nelson Peltz, handling a victory to Chief Executive Officer Bob Iger. Shareholders re-elected Disney's full board of directors after a months-long fight. So nothing is going to change. The board of directors stayed exactly the same. Now, they say that Disney spent about $40 million to fend off Peltz, winning support of Star Wars creator George Lucas and JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon. Which, again, George Lucas does have a great track record of making great decisions. Obviously, he made a couple calls that ensured his name will never be forgotten. I mean, he was brilliant to create Star Wars, don't get me wrong. But he also created Jar Jar Binks and a couple of movies that fly. Let's just say, and then he sold it to Disney and the new Star Wars material. I mean, they're basically a joke. Now, they also say that while Peltz and his backers argued that Disney has been underperforming, Bob Iger won over investors by announcing a cost-cutting plan, launching a new sports streaming ventures, and exploring a sale of some TV networks, per the Wall Street Journal, which, again, for some reason, they still actually do own some of those legacy media channels, including ABC, which, with the exception of one or two major sports balls events, I don't know anyone who's honestly actually tuned in to anything on ABC in the past decade. Now, let's see here. It'll be interesting to see in terms of, let me pull up the stock ticker really quick to see what they've been doing for Disney lately. Because, again, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again, expecting different results. And, again, they didn't change up a single executive or a single person on the board of directors. which again, they're supposed to be guiding the company to most profitable outcomes, doing the best thing for the majority of shareholders. I would argue they certainly are not, because again, most of the materials are losing money. Now, overall, of course, they're still a stable business, just like Anheuser-Busch InBev. They're a multi-billion-dollar company that's very diversified. With Disney, a lot of the money comes from the parks, which are still pretty profitable. So they're not going out of business anytime soon. And again, they still have 50% of the market in terms of who, on average, are attracted to the new Disney. But the stock did go down a little bit after the news hit. Looks like its stock went down about 3.64%. And granted, the market cap is $220 billion, so it's probably a couple $1 billion of loss. But it did tick back up a little bit, going back up around 1%. So, I mean, overall last week, it wasn't too dramatically bad. But again, I wonder how many people just sold their stock because of the result of the board of directors. They don't have any faith the company's going to do well long term. Because again, nothing seems to really be changing. And even though Bob Iger has publicly said he wants to get out of he doesn't want to do controversy, he doesn't want to do politics. I mean, a lot of the materials they're making are. They canceled a couple of their terrible, I think it was, what was it, Marvel? Miss Marvel was the worst Disney film, or Marvel film, which they own, since Hulk, which was terrible, fiscally speaking. They actually lost money, which is almost unfathomable for a company that used to basically print money legally. So the business model today, I mean, can't help but think, I'm not sure how much in terms of resource allocation Nelson Peltz would have to raise or how many more votes he needed to sway, but the fact that absolutely nothing is changing, and yet they're losing customers, they're still not making a profit on Disney Plus, which is their streaming network, they're somewhat moving in the right direction, I gotta say that still is the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, I'm trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leave me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.